A noise in the attic. Jessica and her friends had been planning this sleepover for weeks. Pizza, movies, and scary ghost stories were all part of the group plan for the evening. The house was an old, run-down, Victorian-style home belonging to Jessica's grandparents. It was big, dark, and full of strange shapes and rooms that seemed to stretch on forever. It was the ideal place to get lost in the shadows and for things to get spooky very quickly. The 6 friends arrived for the sleepover, filled with excitement and nervous energy, and gathered in the living room, spread out on sleeping bags with bowls of sweet treats. The flickering white glow of the TV screen cast eerie shadows on the walls as they watched a frightening horror movie that no one was really paying attention to. Giggling and laughter echoed in the room. But when the movie reached a particularly tense moment, the conversation suddenly shifted. "Okay," said Claire, the self-proclaimed ghost story expert. "Who wants to hear a true story?" The room fell quiet, all eyes fixed on her, eager to hear something scary. "It's about this house," she began, her voice low and teasing. "My aunt once lived in a place like this. Big, old, kind of terrifying, and maybe even haunted. But the worst part wasn't the way it looked. It was the disturbing noise." Jessica shifted uncomfortably on her sleeping bag and tucked her hands in. She'd heard the stories before, but there was something about being in this house that made her feel even more uneasy. She'd always heard the rumours about the attic, how it was always too cold up there, like a sharp chill, and it was difficult to breathe, but how people said they could sometimes hear footsteps, stepping slowly from above. "What noise?" Rachel asked, her voice sounding shaky. "The noise came from the attic," Claire whispered, leaning in closer to her friends, as if to make the story more secretive. At first, it was just small sounds, like scratching and tapping, like something was trying to get out, or get someone's attention maybe. But as time went on, the sounds became louder and more intense. Thumping, like someone was pacing back and forth, impatiently waiting for something. Jessica's heart skipped a beat, but she tried to keep her voice casual so she didn't appear scared. "That's just a bunch of old nonsense, it really is. The wood in these old houses creaks all the time." But Claire wasn't done. "No, Jess, that's what my aunt thought at first too. But then one night, she heard it, clear as day, someone breathing in the attic. Suddenly the room grew cold, and even the faintest breeze seemed to stop. You could hear the heartbeats of the group. Jessica's mind began racing. She had always felt weird about the attic. The door to it was located at the end of the hallway, hidden behind an old cracked mirror. Her grandparents had always warned her to never go up there, saying it was just storage and nothing to see. But things were quickly starting to make sense. Something about that warning felt really off, too specific. Suddenly, there was a sound that broke the silence. A soft scrape from above. Everyone froze. "Did you hear that?" Rachel whispered, her mouth dry and voice cracking with fear. I didn't hear anything," Jessica said, but the words felt hollow and meaningless, even to her. Then there was another strange sound. A thud, followed by a faint, unusual shuffle. It was coming from the attic above. Jessica's heart raced. "It's probably just the wind or a rat, maybe," she said quickly. But her words were unconvincing to the others. The rest of the group was already staring up at the ceiling, eyes wide and horrified at the grim possibilities that lay before them. "I think it's coming from the attic too," Claire said, her voice trembling now with fear. "Stop it, Claire," Rachel snapped. "You're just trying to scare us." But Claire wasn't looking at them anymore. She was already staring at the staircase leading up to the attic, fixated and obsessed with it. The noise had stopped, but the air in the room now felt evil and choking, like it was pressing down on them with a crushing sense of unforgiving intention. "Let's just go check it out," Claire suggested, her voice taking on a strange, determined tone that was out of character. "What if it's just a bird scuttling around in its nest or something?" Jessica stood up and wasn't able to stop herself. She didn't know why, but she felt an overwhelming sensation in her body to go and investigate. It was like she was being pulled towards the fear and the unknown. "Fine, we'll go up together," she said, trying to sound braver than she really felt. They huddled at the bottom of the stairs. The old wooden steps creaked and cracked under their weight as they made their way slowly up the narrow, creepy staircase. The air grew colder as they climbed, making their hairs stand up on the back of their necks. The faint smell of old dust and something else, something musty, filled their noses and scratched their throats like paper cuts. At the top of the stairs, Jessica hesitated for a moment. The shadowy attic door loomed in front of them, dark and closed. "Maybe we should just go back," Rachel said, her voice quivering now with fear. But Claire had already stepped forward. "I'm opening it," her eyes reflecting in the low light. With a loud groan, the door swung open. The attic was dark, save for the dim light from the window spilling in. Boxes were stacked haphazardly and old cobwebs clung to the rafters. But then, something caught Jessica's eye. A strange shape, moving in the far corner. Her breath was caught in her throat. "What is that?" The shape didn't move again, but the air around them grew heavier. A faint voice brushed against Jessica's ear, barely audible. "You shouldn't be here." Before anyone could react, the door slammed shut behind them, cutting off their escape. The sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, began echoing across the attic floor. But no one was there. Jessica's pulse quickened. She grabbed Claire's arm. "We need to get out of here, now." But Claire was frozen, staring at something in the corner again. There in the shadows, something was watching and staring at them. Something that wasn't supposed to be in the attic. A weathered face, pale and twisted with a grin too wide for its exposed skull, stared back at them. Suddenly, the door flung open again with a bang. The girls didn't wait another second. They ran down the stairs, hearts pounding in their chests. And when they reached the safety of the living room, they didn't speak a word. Their throats were closed and it was hard to breathe. No words would come out. They just sat there, staring at each other, unable to move as a strange force wrapped around them all, keeping them still. All they could do was watch each other in fear, the sound of their choking breaths the only thing they could hear. Then above them, the noise started again, a slow, deep thump. 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 It was coming from the attic. And this time, it wasn't stopping. It was coming for all of them, and there was no escape. It came down the stairs slowly and moved into the room, silent, ghostly and with bad intentions. All they could do was wait for their turn and watch each other meet their terrifying fate. One by one, they were slowly eaten alive, starting with their guts. They had become a meat feast, all of them. And the last thing that Jess saw after watching all of her friends suffer in extreme pain and choke on their own blood was the wide open grin spread across that evil face and exposed skull, coming towards her too, ready for its dessert.